With that, we are going to talk a little bit about a topic that, for those of you that have listened to the show for a while, you know that it's very near and dear to my heart, because it's something that I have sort of been a boots on the ground person for many, many years. And I am just so thankful that there are people like Kelly that are out there continuing this fight, but doing it from the standpoint of drawing publicity to it, drawing things, to where people are now seeing it more, as opposed to, I've been to where I take on a case and I work a case and I may help one person or one group, but this is a way in which I think the information is getting out there in such a way that that it makes a great difference. So,
Well, I want to be clear that, well, first of all, there's power in media, that,
yes,
in
yes,
radio, right? Um, and so when you do a film or documentary, you have, that platform, which is amazing and awesome to spread awareness, to create awareness and a call to action. But I want to be really clear that the, the people that I'm highlighting, the nonprofit organizations that I'm highlighting, are really the heroes. They're on their boots on the ground in the trenches doing the work.
right. No, and I get that, and I know that you highlighted in there greatly, and in fact, so I don't even know that I've really told them enough about you yet. So let me share. First of all, the topic we're really talking about here, it's the horrific exploitation of sex trafficking, and it goes on around the world. So Kelly Galindo, she's an American actress, director, and producer, and her work has spanned decades in television, theater, and film. Now, she's currently directing 26 Seconds. It's a documentary feature film that has driven her passion to give a voice to the children and the women who are victims of the sex trade. And for the past 3 years, this film has taken her around the world. And it's to expose those abuses that are happening. Now, in her film, she highlights the incredible organizations that have actively stepped forward to do something about this, which has been freeing thousands of women and children. Now, in addition, Kelly balances her time by directing and acting while passing on her craft onto future generations of students as a professor at the Dodge College of Film and Media Arts at Chapman University. She has also taught at the UCLA School of Theater, Film, and Television, as well as the Orange County School of Arts. She is a lifetime member of the Actors Studio as a director and as an actor. So, Kelly, welcome back to Answers for the Family.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, Gabriella?
Yes.
Now, I just want to check because I know you're sitting beside the road somewhere, so I want to make sure you're still
You
there.
wanted to make sure I was still here.
There we go. Wait a minute.
Sorry.
Wait a minute.
That's my phone. I thought it was on mute.
I know. Was that the happy song?
Yes, my phone ring is happy.
Okay. Well, next time we may want to use that as bumper music. So, and I know that you and I talked about some questions. Why don't you start things off with one of the questions that you had?
Oh, me?
No, meaning Gabriella.
Oh.
Sorry. I'm turning here because we got Facebook Live, so I'm sort of looking at.
Okay, I love it because Kelly, you're guest and host at the same time.
I know.
Do this really natural, and Alan, sit back and enjoy.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
Kelly, I love what you're doing. I have always been passionate about human trafficking, especially on top of it, when I found out that there was a correlation with bullying. And so my question to you today is, I heard that it took 5 years to make this specific documentary. Did you know that when you set out to do it?
No.
And if you had known, if your answer is known, and if you had known, would you have done it?
No, I didn't know it was going to take this long, and yes, I would still have done it. But I do want to say it hasn't been 5 years. I don't know where that it probably will be. I was shooting. I was in production, filming in 9 different countries for 3 years, and so production wrapped August 31st, which was that 6 months ago already.
Yeah.
So 3.5 years. But now we're moving on to post production, and I have a praise report. We just got a incredible editor, and that's everything. He's won 3 Emmy Awards. His name is Mark Wilkin. We're really proud and happy to have him on the project. And you had mentioned that, I teach at Dodge, and I just have to give a shout out to my students because they've been incredible. I've had interns, probably over 40 interns from Chapman University, and without their, I mean, this is such, not only filmmaking as a collaborative um, business, right? But what you're talking about too, Gabrielle, in
Hmm.
just waking up the world, that
Yep.
we're all in this together. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to my students, because they've been incredible. And I have a team this summer, assistant. They actually, most of them just graduated. I have a couple that are still in school for another year, but most of them just graduated this May. I think just
Hmm.
Saturday, 2 days ago. But
Wow.
they'll be assisting our lead editor and myself. So, but no, I remember one of my students 3 years ago saying, "Oh, this project will take you about 5 years," and I said, "No," and he goes, "Yeah," and I go, "No." And he was so right, because I even think it's even more from, pre-production, production, post-production, and then marketing and promotion of the film, right?
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's probably been 4 years I've been on it, because there was a good 6 months of pre-production before I even started. So yeah, almost five. I've been
Yeah.
on the project 4 years so far. But uh, I started out, Gabrielle. I said, God, you reveal the story that you want told. So I knew it was going to be a process.
Hmm.
I was learning as I went, um, through the survivors that I've interviewed, and the human trafficking experts, and the founders of the nonprofit organization. So, of course, I was learning as I went, as it should be. You can't
Mhm.
just do something without even knowing anything about it. Um, but I am happy to say that somebody did tell me that I was on track, doing great, because documentaries sometimes take 5 to 10 years. I said, "What?" So I'm hoping it was.
Wow.
So I'm hoping it's not 10 years, but but the answer's a resounding yes. I would have done it again.
Now you mentioned a little bit about the interviews, and in fact I was talking with somebody who knew that you were going to be on the show, and they said, I think they got the press release, so they knew a little bit about what you've
Yes.
done, and they said, "Oh my God, wasn't that dangerous?" So the question then is that, and I know that it can be dangerous getting interviews like that, because those interviews are essentially evidence. Um, how were you protected? And did it get dangerous? How were you protected? And how were you able to convince the women, in some cases, to talk on camera? Because there's a great fear of them also.
Well, I have to say the danger wasn't with the interviews, and I'll tell you why in a moment. The danger was when I was shooting undercover in red light districts, and in, um, clubs or karaoke bars, or wherever they're selling women. That was the dangerous part, and especially my trip to Iraq, obviously, because at the time, ISIS was
Yeah.
not, they, was prevalent there. But the reason why it wasn't dangerous with the girls is because of my partnerships with the nonprofit organizations and my media agreements. They actually arranged for me to interview survivors that have been through their programs. So it was,
Mm.
Much nicer,
yes,
yes.
yeah. So that part wasn't dangerous. Yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
Uh,
Nice.
now, okay, so
Nice.
so
But
you
but but it was
go ahead.
undercover though, right? I mean, you just alluded. I'm so curious.
Hmm.
Well, not my interviews with founders or human trafficking experts or survivors. That wasn't undercover. My B footage, basically, when I'd
Yeah,
go into the clubs.
exactly.
Yeah,
The strip club,
correct,
there.
correct.
How, I mean, were you ever at a moment that you thought, gosh, they can see my face and I need to be really aware and careful because, you almost feel like you have their lives in your hands there?
You know what? I have that gene of not having fear.
Yeah.
Um, or maybe it's just I believe in what the Bible says, not to have fear. Um, so I didn't have fear. I also think that when I was in Thailand, I remember I had a Sony A7 on me. It's not a small camera, and I was going down the red light district with it, and and I think that because I look like, an older housewife, I think that they I think that they don't notice what happened until after I've passed. And I've already got the footage.
Okay, for everyone on the radio, Alan, you have to put a picture up of her because I'm sure it's totally baloney what you just said. Okay,
But
this
I mean,
is two women understanding each other here.
well, what I mean is it's not like, I think me being a
No,
woman
no,
shooting, it was
no,
different
it's
than
baloney.
my than my young male cinematographers. They would have probably been stopped because they're males. I think, because literally people were like, "How'd you get that shot?" And it was times when I just grabbed the camera and would shoot. And I think that a time I passed, people, it was already too late.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, let me just add.
The fearlessness of wanting to get the message.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very driven on like point A to B and what I need to get, and I don't think of anything else in between, and including fear.
Good.
The only time I had fear was when I got a letter from Pastor Kevin Brown, who I went to Iraq with, and he said, "You need to get life insurance." And I said, "Oh, for what?" And he said, "In case they need to send your body back." And I was like, "Oh, this is serious." Oh, wow. Oh.
You're like, "Oh, they don't have to."
I'm like,
Cool.
"Well, they send my head with it, with my body." So I didn't really know how that was going to play out. But that was the only time that I knew that, oh, wow, this is serious.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, the only time.
And I think if people want to go to the website, if you go to, it's 26secondsdoc.com. If you go to the website, one of the things that you'll see, there's a little bit of the footage that's on there that's shot inside some of these locations, and you can see. There appears a couple of times you can kind of see what the angle is of the camera, so you can tell that the camera is hidden. But you can also see in at least one of the clips where there appears to be one of the mama-sans that sees the camera, and
Yep.
and the audio isn't on there, but it appears as though she's not happy and trying to get you to leave.
I even have a male, a John, that was there that flipped me off, and I just thought, oh, great, you just made the cut.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
You won't be on the cutting
We are
room
teaching
floor.
kindness here in the U.S.
Hopefully he's not married.
There you
Tell
go.
me, in which countries did you film?
I shot in Thailand, Cambodia, India, Iraq, East Africa, Mexico, and then right here in the U.S. And the U.S., I was mostly in Southern California because it was close to me, and it's horrific. L.A., Orange County, San Diego, shot the border, everything that happens, the trafficking across the border. I also went to Las Vegas and the Super Bowl, and that was 2 years ago, so it was in Minneapolis.
Do you feel that there is one thread, one common thread that you could, kind of lift the veil for us? One little thing where you say, no matter where I was, whether it's Cambodia, whether it's LA, whether it's any of these countries, all the women had this in common.
And you know what? I'm going to ask Kelly to answer that after we take a break. So if everybody please stay with us. You're listening to Answers for the Family, and we will be right back.
Founded over 30 years ago to meet the needs of families in crisis, West Shield has continually focused on resolving issues that negatively impact families and businesses. Our signature therapeutic transportation service helps to ensure that adolescents in crisis are safely transported to specialized schools, programs, and treatment centers with unsurpassed experience and success. We are supported by our full-service licensed investigation agency that has legally, professionally, and compassionately located hundreds of runaways and teens. We are experienced and qualified to help, offering solutions which may include referrals to our international network of top professionals in the fields of educational consulting, psychology, psychiatry, and investigations. Simply put, West Shield Adolescent Services and West Shield Investigations are the best solutions when your family is facing a personal crisis. Call 1-800-899-8585. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's 1-800-899-8585. Or visit our website at westshield.com. Thank you.
And we're back. I am Alan Cardoza. With us is also Gabriella Von Ray. She is with us remotely. And we're talking with Kelly Galindo, and we're talking about the horrific exploitation of sex trafficking around the world. And she is exposing it through her documentary called 26 Seconds. So when we went to break, there was a question. So if you can share a little bit about that.
Gabrielle, could you ask me again?
Yes.
Absolutely. I am just so curious as a woman myself. You know, we get into scrapes in life, and sometimes we don't know how we got there. And so my question is, for all women listening to this, lift the veil. What is that one little tiny speck of common thread that you found, whether it was in Cambodia, whether it was in LA, wherever it was, in this sex trafficking? Because I think there is a common denominator.
It's not a tiny thread, it's a huge thread. Every
Okay.
single girl that I interviewed, every single one were molested as children. So what happens is it already breaks down their self-esteem, their confidence, and they're already prone to be trafficked.
Yep.
So that's the one thing. The other thing that's
Okay.
that I asked, I would say, who are your Johns? Who are your customers? Every single one is married. That's
Married.
married. So
Okay.
So I remember Paul Lauer. He marketed Passion of the Christ, Chronicles of Narnia, and Narnia. Sorry, Narnia, and and the Bible series. And he's waiting for my project to get done so he can market my film. But Paul asked me. He said, "What are the 3 top things that could change this?" And I said, because these organizations I've highlighted, they deal in either prevention, rescue, restoration, reintegration, or prosecution. The organizations don't, but the HT experts and the law enforcement. And he said, well, what are the top 3? And I said, there aren't a top 3. I mean,
You need all of them.
yes, rescuing the survivor, restoring the survivor, reintegrating the survivor so that they have a craft and a trade where they can earn income so they don't go back, are so important to the survivor. I said, but prevention and prosecution is the thing that will put a dent in this, in human trafficking. Because prevention would be, so education, like in poverty-stricken areas, we have organizations that do prevention where if the children don't have parents, basically it's kind of like an orphanage, but a few of the organizations that I've highlighted have that. So these children would have been trafficked if they weren't in these homes being taken care of. So prevention is extremely imperative, but prosecution also is. And so now going back to every single John is married. So here in the United States, we have that luxury where citizens, by voting in laws, can change things, right? I mean, they don't have this luxury in some other third world countries, but here in the States they do, which means if a John was caught buying sex, instead of giving a slap on their wrist, if it was a $20,000 fine and minimum 5 years in jail, which they wouldn't spend 5 years, they'd spend 6 months to a year. And then they have to go home and tell their wife and family, we need to pay $20,000 and I'm going to jail, and there'll be no income coming into the home for 5 years. I can tell you there would be less of this.
Well, and it's a great point, and it's already worked when you look at drunk driving, because the time in which drunk driving started to become because it was continually increasing for many, many years. It was increasing, and the only time in which it actually started to go down was when they put some teeth in the laws, and they increased the fines to a point in which people then would think about it and go, wait a minute.
That's right.
This is now not just something that's going to affect me temporarily. It's going to affect my
Yeah.
family.
And
That's
then they
right.
did campaigns.
Yes,
They did
That's right.
So
exactly.
many campaigns with Bob.
Yep.
And
the,
I
the
don't
designated driver.
and I don't want to say that traffickers just aren't as equally responsible. They are, and there should be more severe when they're caught. They should spend a lifetime in prison. I think
Mhm.
anyone that
But
would
there,
rape and
yeah.
sell children for sex should go to prison. But the reason why I'm stressing about stricter laws on the Johns is because that's the demand. If there was no demand, then the traffickers wouldn't be doing it. The reason why traffickers are selling children and women is because it's easier and they make more money and they spend less time in jail than selling drugs and weapons.
Which is exactly,
Yeah.
that's, and that
And
used to be, and it isn't until they have put more teeth in the laws that,
Yes.
and again, I think I've told this story before, but on one of the cases that we were on, and the undercover operative on that was in the van talking to the trafficker, and who said, and the trafficker was from Colombia, and he said he's made his business decision shift has been because of the fact that he can make more money selling a woman, over and over again than he could a gram of cocaine.
That's right. They say, you
Yep.
sell drug or a gun, you make the money once. A woman, you can sell her 10 times a day for a span of probably 15 years.
Right. And it used to be that and you would go to jail longer for selling the drug than if you did the woman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now that part fortunately has changed.
Do you discuss in your documentary at all that aspect of money, greed?
Oh, it's all about money for everyone.
Because I when I hear this, I just
It's not just greed from the traffickers. I mean, that's part of it. They're making money. That's why they're doing it. But also the need of money. They're in very, poverty-stricken countries like Cambodia and India. The own mother and parents will sell their 2-year-old child for pennies because they
Yep.
need money. So it's all about money
Mm-hmm.
at the child's expense.
Yeah.
They're
But-
actually,
but-
they even, in Thailand, they're so happy when they have a girl. They're like, oh, she can take care of us. Like, they're going to sell that child. Like, it is crazy.
but it's attitude. Like I read something very, very recently. A teacher in Holland went to Thailand and then got caught in Thailand.
Oh, you mean a male teacher went there to buy
Yeah.
children? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that why, I mean, we talk about mental health. It's almost like we need to talk about mental health with these men. You have a wife at home.
That's right.
There discuss.
There's only 2 in the whole country, and I think it's brilliant. I filmed it, but the one I
Okay.
filmed is in San Diego. It's a John school. So when Johns get caught, they got to go to John school. I still think there need to be stricter laws, though. I think they need to pay
Yeah.
$20,000 fine and go. But there's a John school, which means they get educated, and so they have a panel of survivors that are now advocates. So they're on the other side, but so that these Johns have to see that this is a person. And they'll have other Johns on the panel to talk about it. It's an addiction. It really is, right? Because it is an addiction. Because I asked the survivors, who were more violent with you, the Johns or the traffickers? And they go, oh, the traffickers. Very once in a, like hardly ever. Johns are just there to pay their money, get off, and be gone. So it's not like they're violent people. Johns need help.
Yeah.
They have addictions. So I really love this idea of this John school that they have in San Diego, and there should be more. They should be in every
Okay.
state, every city, just like
Uh,
AA meetings. So you can go to
Yeah.
them anywhere.
I'd
Mhm.
love to visit this John school.
I know. It's
Think I could
incredible,
bring
actually.
some kindness to them, huh?
Yeah.
There you go. Well, there's another episode for the Dare to Be Kind TV show right there.
You're right there.
And
Right there.
another area, and I'd like Kelly for you to talk about a little more, that has to do with homelessness and the amount of poverty that's going on out there. That's another way that we can really make a difference is that if we can reduce homelessness, that is going to reduce that. So share a little bit about some of your findings in that area.
homelessness is such a huge problem, especially in third world countries. I mean, it's horrible here
Hmm.
in the United States. That's a whole nother place that has to deal with nonprofits and the government, right?
Hmm.
Um, but I do know that where there's homelessness, there needs to be education. There needs to be help, like meaning giving them trades so that they can earn a living, so they don't have
Right.
to sell their child. There has to be more aggressive in that area.
No, and I agree, but that's what I was saying is from a percentage standpoint, by knowing that there is such a great percentage of these people that are being exploited is because they are coming from poverty or they're coming from homelessness, that if when we make a difference by providing more for them in such a way, we are then also helping in another area. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, so for people to understand is that if the largest majority of the people who are being exploited are coming from that. Now, I've dealt a lot with the runaways, that it's not necessarily they're coming from homelessness.
No.
So that's a different thing. And I have a client, a family that is hiring us, and for us to try to get them out. It's a smaller portion of the overall issues as it relates to the sex trade. But if we can make a difference on homelessness, we're not just feeding somebody, we're literally changing the course of their life.
Yes, it's like you don't want to give someone a fish, you want to teach them to fish.
Exactly.
Yep.
You know.
Can I add something, Kelly, here?
Mm-hmm.
As a woman myself, I remember when I was young, and I know that my parents were from another generation. I mean, mine really were. They were a lot older when they adopted me. But I mean, it was almost. I think they already taught me that if you didn't do well in school, oh, too bad, you'll get married. And, my mom had this little hesitation. She didn't think I was very pretty as a child. And she said, you might need to work a little harder at school.
Oh.
And the reason I bring this up is not like, but I have somewhere in the back of my mind as a young lady that the sex trade was an option for me.
Really?
And so I just want to, I don't think I've ever said this out loud, but I just kind of want to throw it out there because,
No, the reason why I say,
not understand that, but I think there are many like me.
the reason why I say really is not in judgment, but in question
No,
mark, because my background is I was an actress for many years, my young 20s. So when I'm interviewing these girls, I feel a kindred spirit. I mean, I wasn't trafficked, but I certainly was exploited. And so the reason why I go really to you is because I think being an actress and you're around exploitation really amongst directors and producers and and you're wanting to get a job, and there's girls that are vulnerable that move here to Hollywood without their family. Like I felt always lucky because my family lived here, but that was an option on the table. Not sex trafficking, but prostitution really, I forget her name, Heidi Fleiss or something. She did it to models and actresses in the business. It was a real thing happening. So, but coming from you though, saying you felt it was an option, I'm in shock.
Yep.
But
I think, I mean, if you think of it, my mom, between 1966, my adoption, and her death in 2012, had that attitude and that's why I think awareness and education is key. And I hear you say it, I hear Alan say it every day, but we never pick an ordinary person. In this case, I just said what I felt because we know it's an option. I bet you anything, Kelly, if I asked 10 of my girlfriends during that era, they will all say it was an option. We knew that if we weren't pretty enough, we could have had the sex trade. And I'll add something horrific, and I find this part horrific, that when I was 15, my dad said, I do not know where you got this idea from. And I said, well, Mom, kind of blah, blah, blah. And then he said, I thought we saved you from the sex trade by adopting you. And I was like, whoa.
What
So
what country are you from?
Pakistan.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
in the orphanage, they
Mm,
they they
yeah.
did tell me later that all the girls would have become, after, between 5 and 10, you do the sewing part,
Yeah.
like little things that you sew, and then from 10 on, because they're mature very, very
Mhm.
early. I'm talking about their bodies. Um, so basically, most Pakistani and Indian children get their period between 7 and 10, and so yeah, then you're part of the sex trade
Wow.
while living at a Catholic orphanage. I
Well,
just wanted to.
I'm wondering because we our unconscious is you definitely how old were you when you got adopted?
3 years old. So
Okay.
when I knew that, I was told that kind of the sex trade was an option. Being a hooker was an option if nothing would work out. I must have been 12.
Yeah, but I'm thinking you heard it even from 1 to 3.
Earlier, yeah.
Yes, it's just unconscious, and it's
Okay,
there.
gotcha.
I
Okay,
mean, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, me
I,
too.
I
Yeah.
probably did. Okay,
Yeah.
Or
but
saw it, if you didn't hear it, you saw it, so it's not becomes an option. Yeah.
yeah, and this is my next question, actually leaning into that. I follow one of the groups, and I wish I knew their name today, like right off the bat, but I don't. And they're doing awesome work, and um, they they taught me a lot about the sex trafficking. But what I've also learned, and I wanted your take on this, that there are many children being adopted, as a grown child, meaning 8 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, boys and girls from Mexico, other places in the US, and they're all used for sex trade.
Absolutely. It's
And
happening.
what's your take on that? How can Alan and I and everyone that's listening be vigil without being a busybody?
If you see something, say something, number one. There's a great
So
film,
be a busybody.
yeah, there's a great film called Trafficked that's out there right now, and it's and the woman that worked for social services was doing just that. So I
Yeah,
recommend people to watch that to get educated. And
yeah,
if you
I
see
saw it.
something, do something.
All right. Now, I want to touch on some listener questions real quick, but we're down to about 2.5 minutes. So
Mhm.
this one reads: My husband's daughter from his previous marriage disappeared when she was 16 years old. The trauma of never finding her devastated his life for a number of years. To this day, he believes she was a victim of human trafficking. We have 2 teens, and as hard as it is to show them films, these type of films to our kids, we believe it is critical for them to be fully aware of the dangers in our own backyard. We look forward to your documentary when it hits mainstream, and we'll be looking out for it. This is from Melissa in New Jersey, and she adds, "What else do either of you, I guess that means me, suggest that we do?"
Oh, I would volunteer. Find an organization. I don't know where you
Yeah,
live, but you can't if you go
in,
onto my website,
in
if you
New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey. Okay, I'm not working with an organization in New Jersey, but you certainly can Google it, but an organization that is working in anti-human trafficking and just serve in some capacity and you will learn.
I second that. And then another quick question. This one says, I read an article about an analysis on human trafficking across the world, which also included forced labor. The study identified 3 tiers. Tier 1 included governments that are acknowledging the problem and making an effort to curb it. Tier 2 is slowly coming around, and Tier 3 are doing virtually nothing. A few of the worst offenders that were listed in this was China, Russia, Belarus, Venezuela, Iran, and Central Africa. Though some of these have strict laws on the books, they rarely prosecute anyone. I read that you traveled around the world to put together your documentary. What do you see happening in these Tier 3 countries in the future? And this is from Ben in California.
Well, I certainly know that all of the films and documentaries that are happening is creating awareness. I do know from the countries that I've been to, there's incredible nonprofit organizations that are working either in prevention, rescue, restoration, or reintegration. Um, but this has been an issue that's been around from the beginning,
Mhm.
and it will be around. I don't think my film's going to stop it, all we can do is create awareness and a call to action. And just like when Gabrielle started the conversation, we can all do something. We can all work together. So, and we must. We're a tribe, and we must protect children. Period.
Okay, and because we're running out of time, just real quickly, so a call to action. What can people do to help right now? And this is a project that many people would want to support. Can they donate with their time, their talent, their money? What can they do now?
So, in helping 26 seconds, please, please, please go onto the website and click on the funding campaign. And we need to raise funding for post-production. Excuse me. So if you go to 26 seconds, plural with an S, doc for documentary, 26secondsdoc.com, scroll down to the bottom on the home page, and you'll see the funding campaign. Please click on it, read about it, and do what you can. But I also, if you don't have money, you can volunteer to organizations. You can, whatever your gifts are, whatever you have available to you. But, even go to my website, because there's a tab called NGO organizations. And all of the organizations that are highlighted in my documentary, if you click on their logo, it will take you to their website. And get, whatever stirs your heart, whichever organization that you feel passionate about, call them, get involved.
That's great. Kelly, thank you so much for what you're doing. I just want to acknowledge that you're really making a positive difference. You've dedicated so much of your life to this, and I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Gabriella.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
I love it. I'm not done with the questions.
Yeah, well, except for the fact that we're out of time. So, but again, so for everybody out there, please be sure to put us on your calendar. Tune in next Monday when we'll be joined by Mary Havens to discuss her new book, The Shadows of My Heart, Overcoming Domestic Violence and Abuse. If you get the opportunity, please visit our archives of past interviews at answersforthefamily.com. You can subscribe, and it'll come directly to you through iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Vimeo, Spreaker. We're apparently connected to all of them. So, and I appreciate my producer who takes care of these things. If you like what you hear, please leave a review. It'll help us reach more people, and we greatly appreciate it. Next time you're on Facebook or Twitter, please remember to stop by our page. If you like what you're reading, please like us. And Kelly has one more thing to add.
One more thing to say. I just want to let you guys know that 26 Seconds, the pilot, is available now on Amazon Prime, iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. So you can see the pilot and the trailer on those platforms right now.
That's great.
I'll share it this afternoon on social media.
Thank you.
Perfect. And for everybody out there, be good human beings. And we will be here next week for your listening pleasure. Thank you.
You're listening to Answers for the Family with Alan Cardoza, right here on LA Talk Radio.